Thank you for joining us. Today is May 1, and May 1 is celebrated all over the world as Workers' Day. So it is time to celebrate workers. And how have they fared in Nigeria?
Perhaps it's also a good time to look at some of the things that have brought us thus far as labor activities in Nigeria is concerned. Because just last year, the figures undulated a lot. The figures of those who are supposedly employed, or in fact, the new term I got just about a year ago is the employed, there's the underemployed,
And there's the unemployed.
Is that underemployed? And I was like, okay, so what exactly does that mean?
Well, the pandemic had a lot to do with that. There are many who became underemployed because they lost their means of livelihood and they had to now look for other means of just putting food on the table.
How about those
which was working below their capacity.
How about those who are overemployed? There is no data for that.
Who are those who are overemployed? I think we need to ask the experts what overemployment
because
means.
40 hours a week means a little less than 6 hours a day.
And isn't that enough?
So, but there are those who work like 12 hours.
Well, if the buck stops at your table, you better be ready to work 10 hours. After everybody is gone, then you start dealing with the files. I mean, bank MDs and things, they're in their offices till 8, 9 at night. Work weekends and public holidays.
As you said, that's like...
Anyway.
Maybe you are also even overemployed. The guests. The guest list.
I think I'm going to carry a placard very soon. Yes. To look at Labor Day with us this morning. By the way, we are also part of Labor.
Just so you know.
I'm a worker.
Yes.
We have the president of the Institute of Productivity and Business Innovation Management, Mr. Remy Dairo. He's with us here in Lagos. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much. You see what you've caused?
He's just greeting.
Joining us from our studio in Abuja is Hawa Mustafa, who's climate change coordinator of Nigeria Labour Congress. Good morning, Hawa.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Let me start with you. You are NLC. Okay, why a special day to celebrate the worker?
Thank you very much. Very interesting question. We have 365 days on the average in 1 year. Of these 365 days, the worker, in fact, there are some workers that work all through the year. Generally, workers work. If some are not working, others are on holidays. So for 365 days, workers are on the job. We set aside just 1 day of these 365 days to remember that there are people who are working and who by their labor, by their sleeplessness, by their hard work, by the effort that they put in, a lot of things are possible. We are in this studio today because somebody somewhere is handing a camera, somebody somewhere has opened the gate, somebody somewhere has cleaned offices, has done this or done that. And so there are people, somebody somewhere is doing the security work, there's a driver, a lot. And of course, you there sitting there, you are also workers. A lot is happening to make this possible. A lot happens to make everything possible in every sector, every day. The persons that make this happen are workers. And so to take 1 day in the whole year to remember that the importance, the value of these persons, and to recognize and appreciate them, I think it's just okay, it's just perfect.
Okay, Mr. Dairo, we are celebrating, in quotes, workers. But do you think that the Nigerian worker, specifically, has anything to celebrate? Minimum wage at 30,000 naira, I don't know about his benefits, stuff like that. Does he get any social net? You know, let's talk about all those things that should make a worker happy. Is the Nigerian worker happy?
I think two perspectives to that. We have the private workers, we have the public workers.
Okay.
In the private sector, there is a keen, interest in those areas. Some have keen interest in, employment contracts, health, taking care of, welfare and all that. Some. Coming to the public sector, it's just you get a job. Yeah, there are those things on paper. But generally, the question is Nigerian workers really happy? The minimum wage, just like you've said, some states have not been able to pay. Some states are even saying they can't even pay. The federal government is still,
And yet, what is the value of that money? Can't buy much. A bag of rice is 28,000 naira.
Exactly. So if in fact, if you divide, what we do in productivity is to divide the number of days or number of hours by the amount to collect at the end of the month.
Yes.
It's less than 1 naira. Less than 1 naira.
Please.
So
No, wait.
I mean, you can do the maths. So 30,000 divided by 8 hours in a day times 5 days. Do the calculation and then take it to hour. You discover that the worth of that is mega. And we are even fighting on that. We are fighting on saying, okay, let them be able to pay, and then some states say, okay, they can't even do that. So that's by the side. Talking about welfare, health, security, it's only, only selected, secretariats that they have, probably federal government secretariats or state government that have vehicles to take their workers home. A lot of workers find their route. You find their route back home. And then you talk about house rent, talk about children's school fees. The same things that other people face, the same challenge, is what workers also face, when they get to go to market or go to school and all that. So you see, we are not yet there. We are not yet there. And that is why there's a lot of brain drain. A lot of people are finding their path, finding a way out of the country to say, okay, where can I find, appropriate, if I give so much labor, how much can I get in return?
Commensurate.
Yeah. And you discover that when you get to the other side of the world, you work per hour.
Yeah.
And then you can calculate, if I do 10 hours, then I have this. And it's sure.
Yes.
And then if I sleep today, as I'm not going anywhere today, I've lost
Zero income.
Zero income. I know I can. But here, you are for 30 days, so to say.
Well, on that.
So there's issue on that,
On that, some would also say the quantum of income in those other climes. Yeah. Can we compare it also to the quantum of taxation that they also have to face? But we'll come to that. Okay. Let me go back to Madam Mustafa. In the light of what you've heard Mr. Dairo say, is there really anything worth celebrating for you?
Well, again, celebration for the worker to celebrate his or her existence as a worker, as a person, is important. However, in the context of Nigeria, there's really nothing exciting to celebrate. What we celebrate is in the remembrance of what we give to the society, what we proudly and energetically, wholeheartedly give to the society, give to the world, give to make everything go successfully, give to make life worth living. But are we properly compensated for what we give?
That's a big question right there, but we'll take that further when we return from this break. Just stay with us. Well, it's still sunrise. Mr. Dairo, let's look at some of the nitty-gritties now. Clearly, people are not very, very happy. As you have also said, you have even made it worse by telling us that the worker gets how much per hour?
I mean, it's less than 1 naira.
Less than 1 naira per hour. I saw a picture sometime, I think on Twitter in the course of the week, and someone posted 5 naira. said, what can this thing buy now? Now, on the one hand is the purchasing power. On the other hand is the minimum wage. We know from data available to us from governments that the purchasing power is decreasing, government expenditure is rising, and the minimum wage is as it is. So if we are to raise issues in labor, what are those things that you would say are crucial issues for us to address as far as labor is concerned?
All right, so the first thing is welfare, because motivation of the workers is very important. The workers motivated, they're going to do the work very well. And part of the motivation is to get appropriate tools. There's something called capital, capital machinery, capital tools to be able to be more productive. And today's productivity has gone beyond, oh, I'm just in the office, oh, I pack some files, or I do my work, and then I'm gone. Today's work has moved, beyond the physical, and because of pandemic, even before then and after, now we use more of our data, use internet, work from home, and all that. But the question is, where are the tools? Are the employers of labor providing the tools for productivity? So, go and work from home, get results from home. But where's the laptop? Oh, if I have laptop, who's buying data for me? Oh, okay. And it's okay. I don't know. I don't care how you get it. Just get it done.
Well, the argument if an employer, for instance, might put up is, if you're working from home, you are no longer spending money on transportation. So
it's not my fault. In the labor law, it is not the fault of the worker. Whatever thing that happens the situation that happens where you are not at work. For a time like COVID, it's not the worker's fault. In the labor law, you have to pay the worker and make appropriate thing that must be ready for the worker to work well. That is the labor law. So if I'm not at work, it's not that I don't want to be at work. You are the one that asked me not to come to work, or probably because of our health and all that. And because of that, what I'm saying here is provide appropriate tools. And sometimes tools are apps. Apps. Okay. Can you install the apps on our phone? Can we get a bit of training online to be able to do the work? Because sometimes what we do physically, in the African perspective, working hard, it's a old way of productivity. Oh, I see you sweating. Oh, you are sweating. Oh, well done. No, you don't need to sweat anymore. Technology has taken care of that. So I'm saying the employers of labor also must be able to provide the tools, appropriate tools. Number 3, it's money, salary.
Talking about money,
some workers will tell you, "Oh, I work because of my passion." But some will say, "Forget about it. I need to pay bills." So even if you are passionate about what you are doing, you need to pay bills. So the employers of labor must be able to say, "Okay, what pay would take them home?" I mean, there's a way labor doesn't say that
their pay doesn't take them home.
Take home doesn't take them home.
Take home doesn't take them home. So the question, we need to do research. We need to ask questions. Okay, you as a driver, you as a security man, you as a manager, what exact pay would take you home? What exact take home pay? I mean, these are things that must take into consideration to be able to make the worker excited, to be able to get more productive at work. And let me also quickly warn, sometimes when there's no measurement, employers of labor are also complaining. Oh, you are working from home. I'm not even seeing what you are doing. Oh, you are working in the office. Some people even come to work from Monday to Friday, and we cannot really quantify their level of productivity because there's no measurement. So measurement is key. And why do you get measurement? You must have a goal. We must have, what to be done on Monday. What exactly are we looking for this week? What are we looking at this month? Then we can measure that to what the workers is.
All right. Well, just to give us this information that, of course, many of us are not unaware that the platform is happening today, and the platform is talking about some national issues. So some of our platforms right now may be transiting to that. Just so you are aware. So the program is still on. You can still get us on the terrestrial platforms. You wanted to ask a question.
Okay. Mrs. Mustafa, the issue of pay is very important because of a lack of all the social things that we have spoken about. Your health is not taken care of. A lot of other things are not taken care of, like in other climes. So what you have in your hand, what is called the take-home pay, now assumes a gigantic importance here. So, a few short years ago, how many years ago? 30,000 naira was approved as the minimum wage.
2019.
Good. Is labor not always, doesn't it seem that labor is playing catch up all the time? Because as soon as that money is approved, the prices all go up in the market, and there are also other issues contributing. What is the value of that take-home pay right now with the dollar at 470 naira? So are we going to see fresh agitations? One tatashe is 100 naira in the market. One dorica of rice I hear is about 800 naira or something, no, 1,002 or so. So what does the worker eat? He goes to the same market, but he goes with his 30,000 naira.
This is part of the dilemma of the Nigerian worker. That 30,000 naira we're even talking about, there are so many states that are not paying that 30,000 naira as we speak right now. Less than half of the states are paying the 30,000 naira. Even those that are paying the 30,000 naira, some of them are not even paying it consistently. Now, what does 30,000 naira mean in the life of a worker who puts in about 20 days of work in a month? That 30,000 naira amounts to barely 1,500 naira per day, less than that, in fact. The average, what is the average cost of transportation? What does he eat? Even let's just take the worker alone as an individual person, without even the other members of the family, an average of, say, 3 children. Let's not even go into the standard average of 4. 3 children, probably 2 parents. And let us stop it at that point. With less than 1,500 naira, you are expected to have lunch, you are expected to have dinner, you are expected to have breakfast. You are expected to transport yourself at least between your workplace and your house. You are expected to pay rent at the end of the month. You are expected, in case of health emergency, take your child or your wife or your parents or yourself to the hospital. There are no other facilities that help the worker to manage in terms of maybe something like a social protection to help the worker even when the actual wage is not enough. This actual wage we call take home does not even take the worker to the bus stop. It is supposed to be a take home pay, but it barely takes you to the bus stop. So what are you left with? The worker is left hanging even before the worker gets home. So there is a lot of frustration in the land. And part of the frustration is even what we see, manifesting itself in our youth. Because these youth are children of workers. And when you come home with certain demands and you see that your parents are in a sort of dire situation, they have not been paid salary for months, or the salary is coming in trickles, and you have demands even as a young child, as a young female or a young male, certain demands are not met. Your parents cannot even get to work, not to talk about you, the youth, even getting a job. And so these are some of the precarious situations of the Nigerian worker. And then I heard somebody say earlier around, what does the worker need? The worker needs decent work. It is not just enough for you to say, I have a place where I go to work, and at the end of the month, I earn something. No, it is more important to value the quality of work that you are doing. To also see, to also measure the quality of that job and the daily demands of that worker. Is it decent work? Decent work will mean that your wage is decent. Whether it is 18,000 naira or 30,000 naira, even 30,000 naira, neighbor just had to. We just had to be lenient. We just had to compromise so much to arrive at 30,000 naira. But on the basis of the research that we carried out, if a worker, the average worker in Nigeria, is expected to live a minimal decent life, you will require at least 65,000 naira per month to take care of your transport, to take care of a decent accommodation, Not just the kinds of places, the kinds of ghettos that majority of our workers are living in, and the kinds of facilities in the environment where they are living in, the kinds of vehicles, the kinds of transportation that workers use to take to the office. Before you even get to the office, you are exhausted. First of all, you are hanging by the bus stop for about an hour or two, and you rush into the vehicle where you are standing for another 30 to 40 minutes or 1 hour before you get to your workplace. You're already drained even before you get to work because of the means of transport. Don't forget, you have already slept in a house that is just a house, just a roof that probably is leaking, that you have barely slept very well because of discomfort. And then you wake up through this. Then eventually you get to the workplace where there is the workplace environment is also not quite decent. There are so many workplaces where even basic facilities, basic convenience, facilities for convenience is not even available. There is no water. There is nothing to take care of even the women's, especially the young female workers, daily or monthly, practical needs. Not to talk about a woman a young lady who is pregnant, who needs some kind of rest, who eventually puts to bed and needs a kind of crutch around the office to give her peace of mind. The basic facilities that enable the worker to feel comfortable, to feel dignified as a person that is giving in so much to the society. It's not there. So it goes even beyond the minimum wage. It's a lot of things put together. Where is social protection? We talk about, for instance, National Health Insurance Scheme. It is very, very limited. There are a lot of, in fact, about 70% of health needs are not covered by that insurance, by that. What happens to housing? We talk about federal mortgage, the federal housing fund. More than 80% of workers are unable to access that fund. More than 80% of workers are unable to even send their children to decent schools based on their income. So what is there for the worker? It's not just about the minimum wage. And the minimum wage cannot even take care of all of this. So in the absence of that aside, the government is also supposed, and even employers, they're expected to put in some other buffers, in the form of social protection to help, strengthen, or at least, to help strengthen the use of that minimum wage. So one, you don't have the minimum wage because it is not a living minimum wage. They call it minimum wage, but it's not a living minimum wage because it is unable to take you through the month. Secondly, you don't have basic facilities that considers you as a worker to be able to enjoy health, education, transport, housing. These are basic needs that the worker needs.
1 moment.
To help him boost his morale.
Yeah, just 1 moment, madam. One of the things that a number of people might also be asking is, yes, Labour is always pushing for the welfare of workers, short of using the word laborers, But the question some might also be asking is, aside from asking or pushing for, pay increase, wage increase, welfare, and all of that, are there other innovative strategies that Labour, your organization, can come up with? You heard Mr. Adaro say here the other time that, yes, the worker, the organizations, the businesses have the responsibility of making available tools for the people to work. It's one thing to have the tools. It's another thing altogether to have the temerity to be able to use the tools. There are workers, there are employers who would say that there are people who are not employable, yet they are on some jobs. So are there things that Labour is doing to improve not just the welfare, but the capacity of the workers in the various organizations? The organizations have their responsibility, but is there any other responsibility that Labour can adduce and say, let's take this up also so that our fight for workers' welfare can be more worthwhile?
Well, on the part of Labour, specifically, we have what we call education and training. for our workers. And the part of the curriculum of the education and training is, to kind of psychologically stimulate the worker to understand the world of work and even beyond, and also to appreciate what is expected of the worker within the context of the work environment and even beyond. And at the same time, we also stimulate the worker, or we educate the worker to also understand how to go into proper collective bargaining agreements with the employer. And what is the content of this collective bargaining agreement is something that goes beyond just the monetary wage. It is also about training and retraining. It is also about capacity building. And these are some of the things that we ensure that we are able to build into a collective bargaining agreement. So yes, indeed, the workers or the trade unions just don't fight. What we see as from the outside is just the fight for minimum wage. But beyond that, we go beyond that to also fight for other facilities. That is also the responsibility, and we merge responsibilities and obligations. We do understand that the employer has a responsibility and obligations as much as the worker also has responsibilities and obligations. And with respect to the tools, if the employer provides the tools, who provides the skill, the training that is required for the effective use of the tool? It's not necessary. It's not the worker. My minimum wage is not for me to train myself to work for you.
Yeah.
My minimum wage is expected.
We'll come to that, because what I asked is not about the skill, but the capacity of the worker to be able to deliver. But we'll get to that, more of that, when we return from this break. Well, thanks for staying with us. We'll come back to you, Mrs. Mustafa, but let me bring you the same question, Mr. Dairo, about the capacity. You are into business innovation, so we'll come back to the responsibility of the organizations. But the capacity of the workers, you began by talking about the fact that we have at least three variations. Let's say three. You said two, but there are three variations. One are, the public servants, that's, civil servants who work in the federal and state and local government ministries and all. Then there are private businesses, private employees in private organizations. And then there are those who are self-employed. Those ones, labor can't fight for them. Okay? But talking about the capacity, not just the skills now, but the capacity of the people who deliver the services. Do you think there is a responsibility for the unions? Well, the place of trainings is there, and the place of the skills that they will get from the trainings is there, but the capacity of the individuals that are going to go for the training themselves. Do you think there is any responsibility for the unions?
I will slightly disagree with Madam in Abuja on that point that, it is the responsibility of the organization to provide training. I don't need to, train myself on the tools. Now, let me give you the truth, or the facts here is, your competition as a worker today is global. It is no more your neighbor. It is no more your state or where you are, residing. Now, the same job can be given to somebody in India, in America, in UK, if the job is available online. So if you tell me, this is what I do, this is your JD, and I put it online, who can do this for me? You will get this. You will get other people who have built their personal capacity to take up that job.
That already happens with the freelance.
It's happening. It's happening. Yeah. So if you don't develop yourself personally, you are personally digging your grave at work, so to say.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to develop yourself. In fact, sometimes organization will not provide the training. You train yourself. Your capacity at work is what you build in. It is not what they train you externally, so to say, because sometimes those training, I've done some training for federal government and state government before at the public sector, and I discovered that those trainings are paparazzi. They are like, oh, we have training, we are moving out of the office, at least we have a place to go and rest. We have a place to go, and of course, there's going to be some subvention for them for coming around. Sometimes those trainings are just for the training's sake. The capacity is individual. I train you, you might not check the training. The training might be on paper. The training might be a certificate given to you. But the question now is, after the training, what happens? So it is your responsibility to now upskill yourself. If you have a particular skill before that brought you in, that skill cannot take you to the next level. That skill cannot give you promotion. And that's why I like the private sector. They ask you, can you do this? You are not doing it, you are out. But in the public sector, federal character, oh no, we're not allowed. Let's let people see hang around.
Are you saying that the conditions of getting into the organizations is no longer viable? People have to have minimum first degrees and all of that?
Because in the public sector, there are a lot of factors that bring you in. This federal character thing. Okay. No, we need some people from this particular area of the country. They are not here. And then some people say, I'm sitting down here representing my zone or representing my state. So you cannot demote or remove me. I mean, it happens. So these are the factors that reduces our productivity as a nation. So what I'm saying is, you need to upskill yourself. Upskill. Number two, you need to upgrade yourself. Upgrade your skill. You need to cross-skill. There's something called cross-skill. Cross-skilling is when you know how to do more than what you are doing. Then I can do this, I do this, I'm a broadcaster, I write book, I also have I'm trying to look for something very practical here. That I do more than what I'm expected to do. Yeah. That increases your capacity as a person. There's something called plus skill. Plus skill is a skill that is not seen. It's a plus to the skill. It's the attitude to work. Sometimes you can be trained. Sometimes they can give you all the tools, and you have a wrong attitude to work. And you're like, they are working up there. I don't know the one chopping the money. Or guy they work, bamboo they work.
Bamboo they chop.
So that attitude can never move work. It can never be productive. In sense.
Mrs. Mustafa. This question has come in from Festus Akimboyoa. He said, what are the unions doing with the money they collect from their members? Are they helping their members to cushion the hardship they face?
Yeah, I would like to answer that question. But before then, I think it's very important to engage Mr. Remy on the issue of capacity. You see, the part of the crisis of the world that we are living in today is this issue about competition. This thing about the craze for competition, the drive towards towards getting the best, both coming from the employers and the employees. Once upon a time, there are institutions that had their own training centers meant for their workers. The banks, for instance, will have a training center. Even at the point of employment, you will first of all, once you have the basic criteria for employment, you are given a special training to fit into the specific demands of that workplace. Even in journalism, there is the Journalist Institute. It is not the worker that develops this institute. It is the demand of the economy. And that is why I say the employer, the government, is responsible basically for setting up institutions that will give the worker that space for capacity building. But when you leave it as a fit for all, price for all, competition, go and train yourself. If you are not ready, somebody else is ready. This is the very reason why we have crisis in this world. This is the very reason why we have crisis even in employment in Nigeria, where some state governors believe that, look, I can just wake up one morning and sack 3,000 workers because I don't like your faces or because I don't want what you're doing. And then at the end of the day, of course, there are numerous other people standing outside there looking for these jobs. I can clear you and bring in others to take the job. This is wrong. This is not going to take the world. This is not going to make the world progressive. These are part of the crisis, the major crisis that we're having in this country today, and even in the world at large, particularly with respect to the youth. Particularly with respect to the youth. And that even beyond the world of work, these kinds of crises, they resonate in our social world, and in our cultural world. In our everyday world, outside the workplace, we see the impact of this kind of crisis of competition. And so for me, capacity is basically what the worker requires. The basic capacity of the worker is himself as a person. You have your hands, you have your legs, you have your eyes, you have your nose, and all those basic facilities, those basic things that make you a human being ready to work. Now, some of these workers also come with additional skill and capacity with respect to education. Some of them are pharmacists, some are teachers, some have been trained as engineers, and so on and so forth. This is part of what you have come in with. Now, what we are saying is that if there is an additional need, It is the responsibility of the work of the employer and also policy makers to ensure that there is an enabling environment that stimulates the interest of the worker, that helps the worker to improve, to have access. To have access. And access is not just to say that physically that information is there, physically or whatever, you can access. Access is also about being able, affordability.
Mustafa,
And affordability involves a lot of
I
things.
beg your
It's also
pardon.
about issues of
I
gender.
beg your pardon, Mrs. Mustafa. Are you therefore saying, because in the civil service, there are sometimes promotion exams, are you therefore saying that it is the duty of the employer to prepare that candidate for the promotion exam that is going to sit?
So now you have created a promotion exam. That is a facility to enable the worker to prepare and to say that, look, this promotion exam is about what? It's about moving you forward in your career. You need now to study, you need now to work yourself, you need now to prepare yourself. Now, part of the enabling support that the government or the employer would be able to give the worker is that, for instance, if I need to study in preparation for the exam, perhaps you can give me an hour off work, or even if I'm within work, perhaps you provide me access to library, or at least let there be electricity within the workplace to help me to study. So these are some of those enablers. And we cannot say that, no, the worker, because you need to pass exam, so you provide everything for yourself, the electricity, the time, and everything. No, but that there is the need for support.
Mustafa,
The worker realizes that, yes, I need to improve
apologize, I have to cut you short. We've run completely out of time, and that, you know, is the nature of live television. We just have to round up now. We couldn't even take your closing statements. Thank you very much for coming, Mrs. Hawa Mustafa, Climate Change Coordinator, Nigeria Labour Congress, as well as Mr. Remy Dairo, President, Institute of Productivity and Business Innovation Management. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Sunrise will return in just a moment. Do stay with us.
Well, thanks for staying with us. Next thing is for us to take a look at the World Hand Hygiene Day. This is not unknown to many of us. What you would also find is that it's going to happen sometime in the course of the week. And then you want to make sure that you do the proper thing to wash your hands and all. So, World Hygiene Day, washing of hands and use of hand sanitizers is now what we all do, right?
It's a way of life now.
Yeah, it's become a habit for us now. Of course, that's no thanks to the pandemic. But many may not know that there is such a thing as the World Hand Hygiene Day. So if you didn't know, now you do. Every 5th of May in the year, we aim to maintain global promotion, visibility, as well as sustainability of hand hygiene in healthcare, and to bring people together in support of hand hygiene improvement around the world. To have this conversation with us, we have Hannatu Bello, who is the Risk Communications Officer at NCDC, as well as WASH Officer of UNICEF in the person of Job Omini, but we'll keep going with that one. Hannatu Bello is with us at this point. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, you may first of all want to bring us up to speed. It's not World Hygiene Day, it's World Hand Hygiene Day. Why that explicit difference?
And thank you for having me on the show this morning. World Hand Hygiene Day. We are talking about hygiene, but we are being particular about the hand. This is to show the importance of hygiene with regards to what hand is all about. You see, the Hand Hygiene Day is for you to talk about or get awareness created for people to understand the reasons or some of the reasons why they need to wash their hands regularly under running water and soap. The reason behind why people are encouraged to do this, you know, to ensure that they stay healthy and prevent themselves from becoming infected with various diseases. The theme for this year's World Hand Hygiene Day is actually achieving hand hygiene at the point of care. Achieving hand hygiene at the point of care with the slogan, "Second saves life, clean your hands." We all need to clean our hands. You need to clean your hands, I need to clean my hands. The reason being that when we keep our hands clean, we are likely going to be preventing ourselves from coming in contact with some of these infectious diseases. Thank you.
Well, madam, thank you very much for that one. But if you do not mind, could you kindly remove the mask? We can't quite hear you very, very clearly. Your voice is a little muffled. So if you could please do that for us, and then people might also want to be sure that they are speaking to the real Hannatu Bello of NCDC. So thank you so much. Now, you have given us a little bit of a background into this now. But another question a number of people might be asking is, clearly it is not something that came as a result of the pandemic, but no doubt the pandemic has made it even clearer. Are there specific industries or sectors that you think are crucial in this matter? We know health is definitely, the health sector is definitely that concern, but are there specific sectors? And from your experience as a risk communications person, what are the things we are battling with here if we do not pay attention?
Okay, so scientific findings have proven that hand hygiene is actually one of the most effective ways by which we can prevent infections. Do you know that we can actually prevent up to 50% of healthcare related infections? You know, healthcare delivery related infections. People need to know that when they do this properly, they will likely stay healthier, you know, for a longer time. When you talk about the sectors concerned here, of course, the health sector is the number one sector we are talking about here. We are talking about achieving that hand hygiene at the healthcare delivery. It will be number one, but then we need the water resources, anybody, any stakeholder that can come in through provision of water for the people to carry out these actions actually will also be very much important, will be very much needed. So we need to collaborate between the health sector, the water resources ministries, the providers of safe water for use in the communities, at the health facilities, at workplaces, for people to be able to do this, carry out these actions all the time. You know,
Hannatu, I have a question for you regarding water, but we'll take that when we come back from this break. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at Hand Hygiene Day, and we're talking to the Risk Communications Officer over at the NCDC, Hannatu Bello. Now, you were talking about collaboration between the Ministries of Health and Water Resources. Now, I want to bring up the issue of water. Even with the pandemic and all the talk about wash your hands under running water, you and I know that maybe about 70% of Nigerians don't have access to running water. So how challenging is this campaign for you?
Well, it's been quite challenging, even getting people to understand the implications of not washing their hands. Getting people to understand the reason, the benefits of hand washing. In as much as we do not have as much running water as we want, safe hand hygiene can still be practiced by people who are convinced that they understand the importance or the importance of washing their hands or the implications of not washing their hands. You know, it is very, very important for people to have the buy-in, the understanding that washing their hands keep them safe and healthy, and then people can devise ways of providing themselves with this water to wash their hands properly.
Well, madam, let me ask you about something you said earlier, and believe me, I was shocked. So please, maybe you want to expatiate a little further so that I don't go into fits. You said 50% of infections can be reduced simply by washing of hands. Please educate us on exactly how that works. How is an unhygienic hand, and how is it injurious or hazardous to the person who has the hands? Just tell us, maybe people may not, we do a lot of things subconsciously with our hands. We don't even know the implications of the things that we do. Could you take us through that? And how come 50%?
Okay, so practically, our hands are the ones we use to touch everything. We shake ourselves, we touch surfaces, we handle objects with the hands. They are the most used parts of our body for actions, for whatever we do. So it is easy for us to pick up infection from anywhere and everywhere at all time. This is why it is said that regular hand washings can actually protect you from becoming infected with diseases, while lack of hand washing can make you become infected with diseases more often. This is the reason why, like I was saying earlier, we all need to understand the implication of not washing our hands, and then the importance of why we need to wash our hands. If you have this understanding, if you are convinced that washing your hands can actually keep you safe from diseases, you will go to any length to ensure that you get water to use to wash those hands. I have actually seen a lady once in one of my response to the states using a table water with a sachet of detergent that she went around in and used this to wash her hands when she had the opportunity to wash her hands. She was not waiting to have a tap standing by to do this. So for me, it is that understanding that you will actually be protecting yourself and others from becoming infected with diseases that should spur you to want to carry out this action. Remember, hand washing, it's not just protecting us from SARS-CoV-2, that is the COVID-19 pandemic. No, it will also protect us from other diseases, such as the Lassa fever. Are we talking about cholera? Is it meningitis? Every other communicable diseases, your proper hand washing under running water and soap will actually protect each and every one of us from becoming infected with these numerous diseases.
Now, Madam, how successful has this campaign been since it was launched? Again, taking cognizance of the fact that, especially in rural areas, I mean, you just spoke about somebody who used a sachet of pure water to wash her hands. How many people in the rural setting can afford to wash their hands with pure water?
Well, I actually didn't say pure water. I said bottled water. And the bottled
okay.
water, I mean,
Even-
is
even
refilled.
worse, even worse.
I am not thinking she bought a bottled water to wash hand. It's refilled water. What I'm trying to pass on here is the fact that she knew she needed water to wash her hands. So she provided herself with this water to carry around and wash her hands with. You see, the WHO multimodal strategy for improved hand hygiene has actually been very, very effective, because this has led to reduction in health care acquired infections. You know, it has made us to be able to see that following through, implementing these hand hygiene policies and making an investment, investing in hand hygiene policies can actually go a long way with ensuring that people stay healthy and protected from infectious diseases. Of course, what it means also is that we need to do more. Whatever we are doing presently, the governments, the individuals, organizations, everybody needs to, we need all hands on deck. Everybody needs to come on board to do much more to achieving these clean hands we are talking about. It is not one person's business per se. One individual cannot do it. An organization cannot be solely responsible for the actions of every other person. So even as individuals, we have our own responsibilities to carry out, while government has its own to carry out. So this is the point whereby government needs to make more investment into providing basic water services at healthcare facilities, at workplaces for for the use of the people.
Madam, my question was, how successful has the campaign been? Are you making progress? Are people buying into the campaign and washing their hands more, even in places where they don't have running water?
Yeah, before COVID-19, it was, I wouldn't say we made much progress, but of course, yes. With the pandemic, we have been able to get more people to buy into the idea of washing their hands. People are buying the idea, they're becoming more interested in washing their hands, and they are beginning to understand also that it is important for them to do so. Of course, I will say we are getting somewhere, but we need to do more. There are people who still feel that they do not have to follow the appropriate hand washing technique to get their hands washed. You find people washing their hands, for instance, within 2 seconds without soap, and they will tell you they have already washed their hands. So what we do is show people how to wash their hands properly, appropriately, using running water and soap. When we say running water here, it does not necessarily have to be a tap water. It can be water you are pouring out of a cup, a kettle, a jug. Any container that you can pour water out of can actually serve as running water. We have the Veronica buckets. We have so many other things that people can actually use to get the water to wash their hands. So yes, we are getting somewhere. It's actually becoming more popular amongst people now to understand that if they wash their hands with soap and water regularly, they will likely stay away from becoming.
You mentioned earlier that the theme is achieving hand hygiene at the point of care. Can you please explain that to us?
So the point of care here is the health facilities. As simple as it seems, appropriate hand washing, people still don't do this as often as they ought to in order to get their hands clean. So the NCDC has been training and retraining, trying to build the capacity of health workers at the facility, at the healthcare facilities, you know, on IPC, that is the infection prevention So at the health facilities, to ensure that they wash their hands at the appropriate time in the hospital settings, at the healthcare facilities, so that they can reduce the rate at which healthcare workers become infected, even patients and patient relations. So this is what has been going on.
Well, it's hand hygiene that we're talking about here. And in the medical experience, what we have been taught by those of you in the sector is if you don't use running water with soap, you could use a hand sanitizer, you wear a glove that you will have to remove from time to time. How do these interventions work together, or what do you have to say about these different interventions? Does one serve in place of the other, or do you think they all go hand in hand? What do you have to say about that?
Okay, so wearing of gloves is actually not encouraged, because when people put on the gloves, they will likely move around with the gloves, touch infectious surfaces, and infect other infectious surfaces because of that false idea that they are protecting themselves with the use of the gloves. So we do not encourage people to put on gloves and move around with the gloves. Rather, like you said, washing our hands under running water is very much more preferred with soap, under running water and soap. But in the absence of running water and soap, a hand sanitizer will suffice. But then we will still tell you that when you get to where you have water and soap, please do wash your hands under running water and soap. But then, of course, there are also there's a technique for proper hand washing. You know, we usually tell people that washing your hands for 2 seconds or 5 seconds under whether it's running water or not, and telling yourself that you've cleaned your hands is not enough. So we like people to just follow the proper hand washing technique. For instance, wetting your hands, putting the soap on your palm and rubbing your hands together like that, and then you wash the back of your palm to the back of your hand to one palm, doing the same with the other, and then interlacing your fingers and your palms together like that, and then washing the back of your fingers by ensuring that you roll them like this, and doing the same to the other hand before going towards you washing your thumb from base to tip like that, you know, to ensure that you move out all the dirt, and then you wash the tip of your fingers by rubbing it in a circular motion onto the palm of your hand, and doing the same for the other one before you eventually wash the hands up to the wrists, and you rinse dry with disposable towel or tissue paper, or you air dry as in whatever situation you find yourself. So by the time you do this, you would have taken like 30 to 40 seconds to clean your hands. And believe me, if we can only try to imbibe this, make it our habit, let it become part of us, then we encourage other people to do the same. By the end of the day, we would all collectively be doing what is right, and then keeping ourselves and others protected from infectious diseases. And then I think, of course, these measures work well if we do them appropriately. If you don't have the other, use the other. But if you have the two and you feel that you want to use the two, for instance, you may have gone into the washroom and you wash your hands, but unfortunately you touched the knob, which you are not supposed to do as you walk out of the washroom. You can quickly use hand sanitizer and sanitize your hand again.
Oh dear, madam. I don't even know where to begin with this. On the one hand, you have taught us how to wash our hands. I mean, I don't imagine anyone would want to wash his hands. No one has ever done this. I haven't seen anyone do it until now. Thank you very much for that one. But let me ask you, in the course of doing your work as a risk communication officer, what are the challenges you have faced? What kind of pushback have you gotten from people?
A lot. There are a lot of challenges. Usually it is denial, and then there's this lack of information or lack of awareness on the part of the public. Most of the time, people look at the same scene from a different angle that we are looking at the scene from. So we try to get them to be on the same page with us. We try to get them on the same page with us and explain the situation to them. And by the end of the day, sometimes we get them to start thinking the way we think, and they start doing what we do. In fact, I have come in contact with one permanent secretary in one of the states of Nigeria when we went for a Lassa fever intervention. And I taught them how to wash their hands properly, because we had a meeting. We engaged the management staff of that ministry together with the PAMSEC. And by the time we finished, the PAMSEC was like, "Madam, please, you need to do this again. I want us to videotape the method so that we can practice." Believe me, some months later, when I went again for another intervention, and we happened to go to the same ministry, we were asked to wait for him in his office. And when he came, we saw him trying to air dry his hand. And he said, "I was washing my hand the way you taught us." So we were quite pleased. And he said, "We have ensured that our staff wash their hands all the time." This was even before COVID-19. This was before the intervention, the pandemic of COVID-19. So, but initially, he was not that keen on what we had to do when we went. Eventually, we got a buy-in, and he started washing his hands regularly and even encouraging his staff to do same. So whenever we meet up with challenges at the community level, we try to sit down, engage the people, talk about the situation, and then get them to understand what they need to do right to ensure that they stay healthy from diseases. Thank you.
Just very, very quickly, madam, how frequently in a day should one wash hands?
For me, I would say as often as possible. But there are those hand washing moments that we encourage people to practice. For example, after the use of the toilet. Yes, before eating and after eating. Before you go into the kitchen to cook, during cooking, after cooking. Whenever one is caring for a sick patient, we also encourage that person to quickly wash their hands after caring for a sick person. And then, of course, before tending to injuries. If somebody has an injury and you need to tend to such injuries, please, you need to wash your hand quickly. And then at the healthcare settings, the healthcare providers have also been taught to wash their hands at different strategic points. You know, they have the 5 movements of hand washing, which include before you care for a patient, after carrying out a procedure. The healthcare providers know all of this. So by the time they do theirs at that level, and others in the community also carry out their own part, the world will be a better place for all of us.
For everyone. Well, we have to thank you very much, madam. At least now we can eliminate the part of before and after shaking hands, because we don't shake hands anymore officially. We have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation this morning. Hannatu Bello is NCDC Risk Communications Officer. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts. Yeah, so we're back after now for another conversation. Do stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, we've been talking insecurity, and that problem seems just to be intractable, and it has raised concerns for all Nigerians, including politicians and religious leaders. So some governors have called for a state of emergency in that sector, while others have kicked against it. So, where does Pastor Itua Ighodalo stand? Pastor Itua Ighodalo is Pastor Trinity House, Lagos. He's also an accountant and a social reformer. Thank you for joining us, Pastor Itwa.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. And let me wish all the workers in Nigeria and all over the world a happy Workers' Day, this first day of May 2021. Thank you.
Okay, let me start with a general question. The issue of insecurity has taken front burner in a number of months. What are your thoughts about what is going on? Do you think there's a hidden agenda somewhere, as we have been told? Do you think there are people in high places who are behind this? There are all kinds of speculations out there. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a mixture of different things that has led to this issue of insecurity. First of all, it's economic. A lot of people who are unemployed or underemployed, who are easy targets and available for people to use for all manners of things. Second is political. Some people find it to their political advantage to create a bit of upheaval here and there so that they can attract political attention and mileage to themselves and get away with one or two things that they need. So we have a mixture of these two things, and we need to get to the root of the matter. What has bothered me is the seeming lackadaisical attitude and a bit of indifference in government to this issue that's going on right now. But part of it has been fueled also by corruption, because all of a sudden, some people have found a way to continue to make money and enrich themselves from this kind of crisis, either from the sale of arms or from the use of security votes and so on and so forth. So there's a little bit of insincerity in trying to solve this problem. And then the fourth, of course, is technology. We don't have enough technology and enough equipment and armaments. But I think the most important thing is the determination, the tone at the top, the willingness to crush this thing and to deal with it in a very decisive manner. And I think because that is a bit absent, people are getting away with all manners of things. But if we're determined right from the top to see to the end of this thing and face it from the different dimensions from which it presents itself, including, if necessary, negotiating and discussing with some of the people behind this thing, we will get to the bottom of it and we'll have peace and a vision for Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much for that one. I like the latter part of what you said, vision for Nigeria. If you don't mind, could you just turn to the camera of with which we are seeing you, so that we can get a better profile, and then you'll be able to speak to us as directly as I'd love for you to do. But that peace part that you talked about takes my mind straight away to that inscription under the Nigerian coat of arms: unity and faith, peace and progress. Do you see a plan to achieve that?
From where I stand right now, not really. I'm a little bit bothered about the lack of corporate direction and vision that we need to push Nigeria forward, especially right from the top. The vision is not clear. The corporate direction is not clear. And as I said, there seems to be a lukewarm, lackadaisical attitude. Maybe things will resolve themselves, and then let's see how it goes, and so on and so forth. The decisiveness that we need to crush and to bring peace, I don't quite see it.
That's a little troubling, because a good number of people that we've had various conversations with about this matter also say that one of the reasons for some of the challenges that we're having is a lack of national ethos. Like, for instance, when there was a time when Germany decided this is the path we wanted to take, a time the US decided this is the path we wanted to take, and they put all apparatus of government in that direction. Now, there are also those who say that some of the issues that we're having, some of the challenges we're having are politically fueled. How much of this is political? I'm not talking about party politics now. I'm talking about those who are agitating for restructuring one way or another. How significant would you say such political considerations are in the challenges, especially of insecurity that we're having?
They're very, very significant. The truth of the matter is that historically, Nigeria is a collection of many nations, okay? Right from the time Nigeria was, the Yoruba nation, the Hausa nation, the Fulanis, the Igbos, the Ibibios, the Ijos, Ishakiris, Edos, and so on and so forth. Each homogeneous nation having its own idea, its own plans, its own vision, its own culture, and its own ethos, and its own practices. Okay? So come the British, and they try to bring all these homogeneous nations together without really evolving a common vision and a common purpose for these groups of people, and trying to divide and rule, and also attempting to favor one over the other. And the negotiations we had since 1944, the various constitutions, the Richards Commission, and so on and so forth, the Macpherson, all of them, all those decisions and discussions that led to what you call Nigeria in 1960, and the agreement that at least the three major blocks came to make progress was jettisoned in 1966, and confusion. You know, Chino Achebe said, the center can no longer hold. He says things have fallen apart. So things really fell apart. But the challenge is how, after we cannot come back, sit around the table, and then renegotiate and reagree. That is the big challenge. And the reason why that is a challenge is that some people, some group, some tribe, some association have benefited greatly from the structure since 1966. And therefore, it's inconceivable for those groups of people. Some of them are political groups, some of them are religious groups, and some of them are tribal groups. It's inconceivable for them to let go of that which they now think is theirs by right. And these are the people that I call the gatekeepers. Some people call them the owners of Nigeria. You know, in 1999, somebody wanted to run for politics, and then when they spoke, somebody laughed and said, the owners of Nigeria have decided. Who are these owners of this Nigeria? Faceless owners of Nigeria who are deciding for 200 million people. We need to find them. We need to go to where they are. We need to talk to them and ask them, what do they want, so that Nigeria can be set free. We know a few of them. We will go to them one by one. Their interest cannot be greater than the interest of 200 million people. They need to understand that. Most of them are wealthy, they're influential, they're powerful, they've been around for a long time. Let them let this country go. It is time for the poor man in Ajegunle, the poor man in Zamfara, the poor man in Katsina, the poor man in Isaleko, poor man in Ijo, in Igbo, in Owerri, to rise up and have a voice. That's all we're saying at this point in time. So they came and they decided that this is what they want, because they were benefiting from it. And the benefit is so enormous in terms of material resource that they keep putting the people down and controlling the people. And that's why we have these challenges and different kinds of people now showing up and agitating here and there. We need to sit around the table and evolve a commonality of purpose to think Nigeria, not to think a section of Nigeria, not to think a group of Nigeria. We need to evolve a common purpose. And that's why they're calling for this thing called restructuring. The restructuring is just a simple conversation. We want to agree on how to go forward together, that every single Nigerian, to the best of our ability, will benefit, will have purpose, will have hope, we have aspiration. If the rules are clear, everybody knows how they can aspire. Right now, the rules are not clear, and they're weighed against some people and in the favor of some people. It cannot continue, because after a while, the people will wake up and they will see that it cannot continue. It's happened in Britain, it's happened in France, it's happened in Russia, it's happened in the USA, it's happened all over the world. You cannot continue to subjugate a people for long. One day they will rise. Even in Israel, the Israelis, they rose up against the Egyptians because enough is simply enough. And that's simply what Nigeria has come to now. So we must discuss and we must decide that we have to go forward together in the best interest of the majority of people, regardless of tribe, religion, background, ethnicity, and so on and so forth. That's simply what they mean by restructuring. How can we discuss that it will benefit everybody as best as possible? How can it be that there's equity, there's fairness, there's justice, there's rule of law? That's all we're saying. And it's what we've been saying for a long time. It's just that nobody's been able to strategically think about it and stay on it and insist on it and walk through with it because of different reasons. So we need to engage ourselves and get rid of this big elephant in the room, which is called oil and gas, which blocks our vision and our ability to see and think through. Once we can get rid of it and overcome the fear and the anxiety of oil and gas, I think Nigeria can make progress, because we're great people, industrious people, powerful people, thinking people, hardworking people, courageous people, but we just need to be motivated and driven in the right and fair direction. And this is really what I think the issue is.
Okay. Pastor, for some people, restructuring means letting anybody pull away who wants to pull away. But to keep Nigeria one, as the slogan was during the Civil War, seems to be a task that must be done. How do you keep a people together who no longer seem to want to stay together?
I believe that Nigeria is stronger together. The diversity is good.
Yep.
The difference of opinion is good. It builds a strong culture, gives different views. What we do not have is tolerance, enough tolerance for one another. But if some people really want to pull away, I won't stop them. You understand? You know, the Bible says, Ephraim has decided to go away, let him go. We mustn't force ourselves. We must just find a way to work together separately. There's nothing wrong with that. If people think that they are better off on their own, let them go. But you see, the issue then again is the control of resource, because people are used to getting resource from a certain geographical area and they don't want to let go of it. They shouldn't be afraid. There's more than enough for everybody all over the world. You know, somebody from Ghana now can't come to Nigeria and say they want our oil, but they're doing well in Ghana with their cocoa. You can't come from Cameroon and say you want Nigeria's oil. You are doing well in Cameroon with whatever it is. Everywhere in the world has resource. You know, Israel has no land, has no forest, has no trees, has nothing, but they're the biggest, one of the biggest agricultural nations and technology nations in the world. Switzerland, the same thing. What's the name? What's the name of this place? Lake Town or whatever it is. The same thing. They had nothing, but they had brain. And this is what it is. Let us apply our thinking according to what God has given to us, and we can recreate. Even Dubai had no resource, but they had brains, and they've transformed the land. So this is the laziness of the average thinking of the average Nigerian leader. We don't want to think. We don't want to apply ourselves. We don't want to challenge ourselves. We just want to eat what has already been prepared. And you can't continue life like that. Any family that's not continually generating income is wasting and dying. So we need a reorientation of the average Nigerian That is part of the problem. We're wrongly orientated. Ethics, hard work, morality, a fear of God, focus, determination, all those things are virtually eroded from the average Nigerian. You know, most of the people complaining, if they get into power, they will do even worse. You know, we thought that Jonathan was bad. Now we got a new government and they haven't done much. They haven't done better. It's frightening. 6 years ago, they were carrying placards and complaining and saying Jonathan was useless. Now we hear we've gotten the economy even worse. So the problem really is orientating the average Nigerian so that they know good from bad, right from wrong, good government from bad government, and the principles that you need to apply as a human being to yourself to make you succeed. If you cannot succeed in little, you can't succeed in much. And that's why I said we're tired of theorizing. Let them do, let them do, let them do. No, we're going to take people one by one on one, and discuss with them and negotiate with them and agree with them and let them allow Nigeria to thrive. We're going to educate people one on one. You have to think different. You have to look at things differently. You cannot continue in this way and think that you'll have overall happiness if there's no process, no procedure, no policies, no direction. You are going to fail. And that is what we're feeling in Nigeria. We lost the plot.
Yeah. Well, Pastor Igudalo, just one moment. You've raised a critical mass, the issue around the critical mass in the conversations now when you talked about the citizens, the average Nigerian. That's the number of the people in that average Nigerian is quite humongous. Carrying them along in this trajectory that you're talking about is something that we'll consider when we come back from this break. Do stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. Pastor Igudalo, you talked about the average Nigerian. Let's paint a picture. Now, most of the people in the average Nigerian category that you characterized are youths between ages 15 or thereabout and 45. Let's say 45. That's the average. And about 50%, more than 50, in fact, more than 60% of people in that category are what makes up our population. So we have quite a critical mass there. And you know very well that the trust quotient between the government and the people they govern has greatly depleted. So government says a thing, people are wondering, really? And it's responsible for the reactions and the responses of so many people to many of the initiatives that governments come up with, including, non-pharmaceutical interventions as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Now, getting the people to even agree to go in the trajectory of anything developmental as far as many of these people are concerned is definitely something that's going to be an issue. You said something earlier that many of the people who are complaining now about one thing or the other concerning government, when they get into government, they would also do even worse. So we are literally in a quagmire. Getting out of that, can you proffer a solution?
So that is why we need a desperate search now for the right kind of leadership for Nigeria. There's a desperate search for that right kind of leadership in Nigeria. And we need to define the kind of person that we want to lead Nigeria. So that when Nigerians see whoever offers him or herself up for leadership, they can say, you don't fit this criteria. If you want an MD of a bank, you have a criteria. What do we want to lead Nigeria? Number one, his background must be impeccable. We must be able to trace his antecedents, his source of wealth, the work he has done, what he has achieved, or what she has achieved over the last 10 or 20 years. Number two, the vision for Nigeria must be clear and sure and direct, and so on and so forth. Number three, the person must fear God, Humility, reality, the fear of God must be important. Number 4, intellectual capacity, the ability to think, to solve problems with proven evidence and track record. Anybody that has a taint of corruption, no, we're not interested. Anybody that has a taint of being a bully, being unfair, cannot think through, we're not interested. Number 5, you must be hardworking, capacity for hard work. You can't lead Nigeria without working hard. It's a big country with lots of people. So you must be dynamic and hardworking. Number 6, fairness, equity. You're a Nigerian before you're a tribe or a tribe from a tribe. You are thinking Nigeria. What will benefit the man in Sokoto, the man in Bauchi, the man in Kebbi, the man in Ijo, the man in Bayelsa, the man in Warri, the man in Ibadan, the man in Lagos? What will benefit each person? How do we work it out? We are first of all in Nigeria, thinking Nigeria. You must have these qualities: the fear of God, humility, honesty, sincerity. You know what is missing in a lot of leaders today in Nigeria? They're very insincere, very greedy, very selfish, very corrupt. They think of themselves first before they think of Nigeria. They're not willing to serve and work for the people. We don't want anybody who's going to not serve the people, not work for the people. You're a general in the army. What's your salary that you have this sort of wealth? Tell us. You're a businessman. How did you make your money? You were this, or you were that, or you're a trader, or you are even an accountant. How did you make your money? How much do you have? If you cannot tell a good story, we're not interested. Don't come and waste our time. Don't come and tell us lies. Don't come and deceive us. And we need to educate the average Nigerian to understand this, because most of them, they don't understand. They don't know right from wrong. Poor people in the villages, in the trenches, in the ghettos, everything they see, they don't quite understand. They don't know the questions to ask. And these leaders are getting away with it. Nigeria is not theirs. Nigeria belongs to all of us. So we must all have a stake in it. And they must understand that. So the criteria for who is going to lead Nigeria must be clear. If you don't fit, don't even come near. If you cannot explain the source of your wealth, if you cannot explain your capacity, if you cannot show what you have achieved, if you cannot show that you're a Nigerian above all, and you are passionate about Nigeria, and you really want Nigeria to succeed, don't come. If you are not smart or intelligent or exposed, understand economics and all the things that you need to do as a statesman, stay out. If you're a tribalist and you are believing more for your tribe than anything else, stay out. If you're a Kabbalist or whatever it is, stay out. We want to get it right. If we can get it right, Nigerians will follow. They've shown it before in many times. They are ready to be led if you are going to be truthful and honest and straightforward and show them where you are going. They even will forgive you of mistakes of the heart, because everybody will make a mistake or take a wrong decision. But what we want is sincerity. We are tired of people telling us lies, deceiving us, and taking us the wrong path. And Nigerians must decide that they don't want these sort of people anymore. End of story. If we can get it right, within 10 years, this country will be a different kind of country. The person must be brave and courageous, ready to take tough decisions. But sometimes you need to take really tough decisions that even your wife, your brother will question you. But you have to say to your wife and your brother, this is the right thing to do. And that's what I'm going to do. And therefore, you have to be led of God. You have to be spiritual to understand what God is saying. If you don't, if you are not able, then have somebody who is a sincere spiritual person to also guide you. That's what David did with Nathan, and so on and so forth. These things are there. We know what to do. All the policies, all the plans, everything is available in the archives of Nigeria. What we lack is sincerity, passion, compassion, a desire to serve Nigeria. And we must look for that leader that will serve Nigeria.
Pastor, wouldn't you say that this is the ideal picture that you're painting? Because the poverty situation in Nigeria is such that if anybody showed up and offered 1,000 naira, even 500 naira, votes will be bought and sold.
Exactly. Which is why people like myself, people like yourself, people like John, and people who know better should begin to tell these people and shout it from the treetops. Don't sell your birthright for 5 naira or 5,000. This guy will give you 5,000. He will take away your school, take away your health, take away your roads, and so on and so forth. The guy hawking bread on the streets cannot connect his poverty with the gentleman who just drove by in a motorcade. He cannot connect it. We have to make that connection for them. So the first thing we need to do in Nigeria is reorientation and public awareness. Radio stations, television stations, social media, they must begin to belt it out. This is what we want. This is right. This is wrong. They must belt it out and show that this is the way Nigerians must go. This is the time to start to do these things. This man is offering you 10,000. He's stealing your money. He's giving you 10,000. He's taking 1 million from you. You must see it. Wake up and smell the coffee. This is the time. So I'm going to call upon you and everybody else, anywhere, who knows right from wrong, to say right from wrong. That's what we need to do in Nigeria right now. Educate people, inform them, let them know in the churches, in the mosques, in the schools, in the village square, in the town halls, in the little villages, in the hamlets, on radio stations, TV stations, everywhere. We must begin to say it. And where we need to name and shame, we will do so. Otherwise, these people will continue to get ahead of it. At the very worst, we say, Mr. So-and-so, explain to us, this money you are spending, where did you get it? You know, in those days in Nigeria, if you came back home, your father will ask you, this car, how did you get it? Your mother will ask you, this money you are spending, how did you get it? Your uncle will ask you, you just went to Lagos 2 days ago. How come? Now, people don't ask questions. We have to ask those questions. There's nothing wrong in making money, as long as you can tell us how you made the money. There's no problem. If you didn't cheat or steal, no problem.
Well, Pastor Hodalo, it is interesting that you put it that way. But, you know, we have chosen democracy, party politics. On a lighter note, I don't think the fathers and mothers in those political parties ask those questions that you're asking. But that is where the candidates have to come from. We do not have a system that permits independent candidature for now. So before the candidates can arise, they have to go through this system. The kind of communication that we need to have, as you're proposing, perhaps should start from the political parties. But then, the negotiations you talk about and the interests of these individuals in the parties is definitely something to consider, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. The parties won't educate themselves because they're all the same coin, the same 10 and 10 pence. They won't educate themselves. They're all benefiting from it in the party. It is us outside the parties that must put pressure on those people in the party that they must change. You know, the people in the parties, they are first of all human beings before they get into the party. So before they go into their enclaves or conclaves, we must get to them and talk to them and tell them, that meeting you are going for, tell yourselves the truth. If you don't tell yourselves the truth, we will see you when you come out. Some of us must get into those parties and join them there and begin to shout and drum. The problem, though, I must confess, is that once you get there, you tend to join them because somehow or the other, they threaten you, they bully you, they try to corrupt you and all that. And that's why Nigeria's problem has been so difficult to solve because of this same level of poverty that you're talking about. But the more a few of us begin to talk about it, the better it will become. I think that Nigeria is a bit better in terms of people in 2021 and knowledge and information than in 1999. It's just that the not so good people who got hold of power in 1999 have entrenched themselves while the few good people were looking away. But these few good people mustn't be afraid. They must rise up and begin to talk. Otherwise, some people think that is totally impossible, that the rot is so terrible, and so on and so forth. But try we must, and we must keep saying it, so that maybe one day something will happen. And at least some of us, we've done our best to make sure we've tried to educate people and tell them what they really should do. And you know what? If we did the right thing, there's more than enough for everybody, more than enough to aspire to, more than enough to spend, more than enough to live a decent life. And that's all we're asking for, the ability for each Nigerian to be able to live a decent life and aspire genuinely to whatever they want. Not some people cornering the whole thing. No more.
Place to leave it. We've been looking at the state of the nation, and we were having a conversation with the pastor of Trinity House, Lagos, an accountant and a social reformer, Pastor Itwa Igodalo. Thank you very much for coming to share your thoughts with us this morning. Sunrise will be right back, and we'll be looking at the issues surrounding the census when we come back from this break.
You've heard it said over and over again that Nigeria is a country of 200 million people. Some even say we are 206 million people, and on like that. But you know what? We need to find out exactly how many we are. Don't you think so?
About time.
Yeah. So last year, the National Population Commission, NPC, announced its commencement of the enumeration area demarcation EAD in the country. With the coverage of about 460 local governments. Yeah. So while the commission is gearing up for population census in June after 5 years, so what kind of conversations should we be having now about this? What's your role in this whole conundrum, if I can use that term?
Exercise.
Okay, exercise a bit. But exercise usually connotes I have to activity, exercise. Anyway, let's just get to it. Bimbola Salah Hunde joins us this morning. She's Honorable Federal Commissioner of the National Population Commission. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. And viewers, good morning. Thank you.
Well, it's supposed to be a holiday. Why are you working today?
Well, thank you very much, sir. You said it rightly. We are gearing towards the next census. And right now, the National Population Commission is conducting the exercise known as Enumeration Area Demarcation, simply put, EAD. We work every day, that I must say, including Sundays, and I'll tell you why. The meaning of EAD is simple. It's when we divide a nation, a state, a locality, a local government into smaller portions so that when it's census time, we're able to just send a pair of enumerators there to count, and then we're able to cover every part of the country. It's not only that, the enumeration area demarcation is also building the national frame for the country. And we know that with the national frame, we'll be able to know where infrastructure should be placed, where economic activities should go, educational and all that. That is why the EAD is extremely important to any country. And this time, the National Population Commission is saying, we want to get it right. I was listening partially to the last speaker you had here, and I must say that his passion thrilled me. Of course, I knew he would be like that. But I'd like to say everything that he has said, I agree, but there is something. We need to know how many we are, like you said, who we are, and how we are. Okay. And that's talking about data, and that's what we do, and that's what we want to give to Nigeria. This is our contribution to the development of this country, supplying data that will move the nation forward. And the ground the ground exercise, the foundation, is the enumeration area demarcation. It's actually the architectural foundation of any census. If the enumeration area demarcation is accurate, your census is likely to be accurate. And then the government can use that to have informed decisions to base their policies, legislations, and all that.
Okay. Obviously, this EAD will be dealing with smaller areas than the local government area. So how small is each? Should I call them
Enumeration
EADs?
area, yes, is each enumeration area. Yes, that's true.
How small is each one going to be?
What we do is, if we get to, like the streets now, where Channels TV is, we must enter every house, whether commercial or residential. When it's a residential building, we ask how many households are living in that building. What do we mean by household? It does not have to do with family ties. It is based on people eating from the same pot. It's about eating. It's about catering pattern. If you have in a house, you have a father, a mother, 2 young children, and the father says, okay, the 4 of us eat from the same pot. That's one household. But I have 2 grown-up children. I mean, they're graduates, but they just live with me. But they do their cooking themselves. They eat. They're different households. If you have 6 youth couples living in the same flat, but they all cook differently, then there are 6 different households.
Hold up. Just slow down.
Okay.
It's a 1-room apartment.
Okay.
3 of us share this 1-room apartment. Each of us has our pots
Your 3 households.
in 1-room apartment.
Yes, and then let me tell you further, sir, that apart from being 3 households, if each of you has a brother or a sister living with you, apart from the 3 of you just sharing, and you have a brother, a sister, an aunt living with you, by the time we want to count, because when we count households, we have sampled buildings. In those sampled buildings, we also ask you how many people are within that particular household. So if you have 3 of you, different pots, but you have a younger sister with you, she has a younger brother, then we count, okay, that's 2 houses. She has 2 younger sisters, they have 3 people. So we count, and the other man is just alone, that's 3 plus 2 plus 1, that's 6 people, that's 6 households in that house. That's 6 people in that house of 3 households. That is how it is counted. When we do that, when we get to a particular threshold, it doesn't have to be the whole street, it could be 2 streets together. There's a threshold that we've arrived at scientifically, then we round it up, it forms a polygon, and that's what we call the demarcated area. So we name it after either the street or a popular or landmark. Like if we come here now, we look at Channels. Oh, Channels is known to everybody. By the time we go around and form a polygon around you and get to the number of houses we need, about 500 households, this is Channels demarcated area. That's one area, and we keep moving like that, so that during census, we can just assign 2 pairs of enumerators who just come to Channels, they go to the next one, another street here, another street there, and what they do is they now, because during census, we ask a lot of questions, you're aware. It's not like enumeration area that we just ask you numbers of households. During census, we enter a house, we want to talk to everybody. We want to know the school you've been to, your age, whether you, so many questions come out during census. So we don't, and you know, census is just for about 5 to 6 days, maximum 7 days. We must cover the whole nation. That's why we need to divide it into little bits now, so that we can have enough enumerators to cover during census.
What kind of my apologies? What kind of conversations should we be having to people to get their buy-in here?
Thank you
Because
so very much.
because people go to the office, and I asked you now, for instance. You're not supposed to be at work, but you're at work. Monday is a public holiday. Otherwise, many people will go to work. So if you get to this EAD today, they're all home or they are not home. But by the next time you get there, they're all not home or they're home. It's the reverse of what you met when you assigned. So how does that work?
Yeah, thank you. What we do is when we get to a household, if we don't meet them, we are allowed to ask their neighbors. But I must be honest with us here. It's never the best, especially regarding Lagos State, because Lagos is densely populated. It just doesn't have a high population. It is a dense population, thick. So it's better you're there to tell us who you are. It's not your neighbor that will know how many of you. You could have people living in your house and your neighbor doesn't know how many they are. But like you rightly observe, people are at work. in Lagos, the people leave home as early as 4 a.m. They don't get back till 10 p.m. We're off the street. So we plead with people to just give us time. We won't take more than 3-5 minutes. Just tell us how many you are, the household. How many of you eat from the same pot. That's what we want to know now. We're not insisting on seeing them. Just tell us how many of you eat from the same pot. It's a pot thing now. It's a catering arrangement now we want to know. And then...
But there are many homeless people in Lagos.
That's so
How do they get counted?
We do that during census. We have a special scheme for them. We go under the bridges. They are a special scheme. We do that during census. For now, we just count the houses, and we must number your house. Even if it's a commercial premises, if you have your security guards that sleep there and they eat there, then it's another household.
Okay. We also know, from, past enumeration exercises that there are societies, there are environments that culturally they don't allow you to get into their homes. What happens in that regard? I mean, for cultural reasons or for certain practices, those things are not permitted. How do we get those figures?
Like I said earlier on, this time we're not looking at seeing you physically. We just need to know. You tell us. When it's census time, if you had lied, because during census, we must see everybody physically. But now we don't have to see. We just need to know how many eat from each pot here. When it gets to a particular threshold, we round it up, and that's a polygon. When it forms a polygon, we put that. That is channels enumerated area. We've enumerated channels. We move on, another arepo or whatever. We do all that. During census, if you had told us you're 10, we come to your house, we must see everybody. And that's when we ask everybody questions.
No, you don't understand what I'm saying.
No.
There are those, environments. They don't. Are you saying that they all have to come out to you?
No, I just said that now that you don't have to come out during enumeration area.
But
What about during
how about
census?
during census?
Everybody must come out. We must count everybody because we must see everybody. Now we're even looking at having, for example, the enumeration area demarcation we're doing now is paperless. We're also leveraging on technology. We go with our PDA, the whole map, because we have a satellite imagery stored into the PDA. We work with the GIS. The whole map of Lagos State is there, and so we can know the streets we're going into, the number of houses, buildings. But of course, we recognize when we see new buildings, we're able to number them as well, because Lagos grows every day. So when we get there, and we're not asking you to bring them out now. We're only asking how many houses do you, how many of you eat from different pots or the same pot. When it is census, you must bring them out. That's what the census
During
is.
census, for instance, Alhaji Ayo may not allow you see his harem of 10 wives inside. They're all covered up anyway. And he ain't going to bring them out, especially if your census officer is a man. What do you do in that case?
The commission is conscious of that. And I know my colleagues from the north have started educating the people there, telling them that during census this time, we must see everybody. We want to also carry out, we're talking about biometric census, but we're looking at least paperless. We want to mix technology with our census this time. Even if we're not going full biometric, which the commission has not fully decided, we're still working on it, listening to different consultants on that. What we're doing is, this time it will be almost impossible for people to lie, because we must see everybody. We must unveil. We send women to where the women are. We send the men to where the men are. We also understand and we appreciate people's differences. So we don't want to step on anybody's toes. But you must let us see you during census.
Okay. What about the issue of foreigners infiltrating and pretending to be Nigerians?
That's another one. But census counts people living in a country.
Ah, okay. Because they're living here, they'll be
That's
part
why they
of
are part of our population.
Okay.
To get to that, that's why we're advocating that every Nigerian must have a national population birth certificate, even before NIMSI gives you an identity card. Because we issue the foundational birth certificates, the truest and the only one that, as soon as a child is born, we give you a certificate. That's a true identity. That's a foundational identity. That's why we're saying every Nigerian must have that. We're also working towards that, and we want to leverage on technology to make sure that every Nigerian has a National Population Commission birth certificate.
But if our final figure also includes foreigners, in that case, we don't know how many we are as Nigerians.
We do, because the census, I did say now that in census we ask a lot of questions.
So you're going to be asking about their nationalities
Exactly.
as well.
So when we now analyze, we're able to tell you these are the people, residents in Nigeria. If you must know, these are foreigners. It's stated in all the forms. We would have all those analyses.
So the figure will state Nigerians, 200 million.
It depends on what they want us to
Foreigners,
state.
20 million or whatever.
It's like that. That's what census stands for. Census is a demographic count. So it tells you the characteristic of everybody, the educated ones, females, males. But these are things that after we enumerate, after we have analyzed, and the government permits, then we bring out these figures. And that's why all other surveys are based on that. That's why census is called the mother of all data, because that's the data that talks about every individual in the country. There is no country that can go. There can't be true development. Even if you get the best person in this country today, without demographic data, that person cannot govern successfully well. It's impossible.
But then one of the conversations that one will be wondering if you can have now is, what kind of discussions should we be having with people? Carrying people along is definitely something that we need to give a lot of attention to. How are we achieving that? How are we ensuring that we are able to give people the necessary information about getting these things done? Ultimately, that is what the challenge is.
That's true.
How are we carrying people along?
Yes, what we do is, when we get, right now, we've done a few local governments. We've done Mushin, we've done Bariga. I don't want to take us back, but we are right now in Ekwe and Ibejuleki. The first thing we do when we get there is to visit the elders, the leaders, the local government chairman, the KBACs there, the market women, the CDAs, the faith-based organizations. And now we're looking at even talking to professional organizations. Because seriously, I've even discovered that the elites themselves don't even understand what EAD means. I didn't know till I became a commissioner in the commission. I knew about census, but not the EAD. And this is the architectural foundation of the census. So people need to understand it. So we go on for this grassroots sensitization. That's what we do nowadays. And I must be honest with you, we still need to create more awareness, because you know that awareness leads to positive action. When people are aware, they understand what you're doing, then they're able to give you the right information and they cooperate with you. So we're pleading, and that's why we're so grateful to channels and stations that have accommodated us, that people will listen to us and know that when we get to you, please give us time. Just tell us the numbers of households you have in there so that we record it. And then when it's time for census, we'll be able to count everybody.
Well, you just kind of referenced the fact that you have certain pushbacks, from those who do not know about what this whole thing is. What kind of pushback do you get?
One, you get to some people's homes, they don't even want to listen to you. They think you're asking these questions for tax purposes.
Don't blame them.
Some think you want to come back and demolish the houses, especially when they feel probably they're not in a very... Some just think you're wasting their time. We've been to a community and they had said to us, look, you counted us so time 16 years ago. What did you do with it? We're not too interested. We need to explain to people. We need to let them know this is the greatest opportunity Nigeria can have to put its data right. When we have the accurate data, it is for governance, good governance. It is also for accountability. Because then I will know that, okay, only 10 people live in China's local government. Why do you want to put 100 schools in the budget? Then I know you're lying. If I know only 10 people live here and there are 6 students, then you shouldn't have more than 6 schools. That's what data does for us. Data is a mirror. It's an eye-opener. And that's what we're trying to garner now by conducting this exercise. So, but people still don't understand the essence. It's for better life of every Nigerian. It's for the future of our children. It's for us to have a national frame to stand upon, know where infrastructure should go, where it shouldn't go, how many kilometers of road should be built, how many schools should we have, hospitals, and all that. We need to really have grassroots sensitization, and we do that. But I must be honest, in Lagos State, it's been very tough because we have a lot of people. But we're trying, we have jingles, we're looking at adverts.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
I was just going to say, I haven't heard any campaign.
Oh, we have on, I don't want to do an advert, but we have on radio traffic that we know it's quite popular with everybody, and a few radio stations, and we're also talking to channels, although you're quite pricey, and
Oh yeah, we are. I mean, there's a reason for that. One of the questions that also comes to mind. Yes.
I agree.
Now, one of the questions that also comes to my mind is, of course, you talked about, the importance of data and all of that, but there are two catchments that we don't seem to give due regard in many of the things that we do. One is gender, the other is the youths. How do you see this exercise, prioritizing attention where need be to these categories of people? Don't forget that we have had policies all over the world that say at a particular percentage of women, for instance, 35 or thereabout, should be in government. What we have now is not near that. How is this data gathering you're doing likely to help in achieving such targets?
Thank you. When we gather this data and we analyze, and by the grace of God we have the census, then we are able to understand the full characteristics of every person living on the soil of Nigeria, state by state, local government by local. In that case, you can pick it up and say, look, if we have, let us assume the next census, we get the same 200 million for purposes of arguments. And then out of the 200 million, we have about 100 million women. And then maybe another 100 youths, or maybe you have 50 women, 70 youths, because our demographic, it's kind of high. Then it is easy for us and for the government to look at what we have done and have informed decisions to say, okay, if I have also women, then we must begin to empower these women because they form this chunk of the population. We're talking about development through data. We're talking about empirical data. That's the only way a nation develops. It is not by guesswork. For example, if we know that Nigeria has, like now we have a youth bulge, we're able to present it through data. That is evidence. Then why would any government not invest in those youths? Then it is important. Then the youths are able to also say, look at the data, see how many we are, this is power. Then we want this, we want that. It is with data that we can move forward and even put the government where it should be, even though I am part of it. You know what I mean? Because then you can tell me, you have told us in social local government, 10 children were born, then we must have 10 schools. Why is your budget talking of only 2 schools? Then we'll be able to know that, okay, after 6 years, these children are going to go to secondary school. Then how many secondary schools are you planning to build before the 6 years so that all the 6 children can be there? Then after that, tertiary institutions or vocational institutions. And then we look at it and say, our young girls, how many of them are in school? All surveys carried out in any nation is based on enumeration area demarcation survey. It is a mother. That's what the base, that's why we call it the national frame of a country. So it's what leads to development of that country. It is the information we're getting now that the government and private sector or whoever wants to work with it will use to make the lives of Nigerians better, to give us modern livability that we all seek.
Okay. Okay. Now, you've talked about, many of these things, and I'm just wondering in my heart right now, a good number of people will be wondering, we have had census exercises in the country that never saw.
What is the plural of census? Censi? Censuses?
Yes, censuses.
We've had some in the country that haven't, that they never really, saw the light of day. I'm going to have to pick that up. We remember, for instance, 1 or 2 military governments had such exercises that they were botched, for one reason or the other. Definitely, humongous resources are deployed to achieve that. Now, we are going into the same space now. We've had one, at least, that I remember, in this Fourth Republic. And
2006.
Exactly, and we still seem to be undulating around whether or not it is, verifiable and all of that. So what is it that we need to do to ensure that we do not retrogress, that will make this exercise empirical so that people will not say, this is another exercise that government just wants to make money. For instance, we understand that the EAD alone is going to cost Nigeria 10 billion naira from, from early last year, so as we gathered. So how do we ensure that we don't go back? What are the things that you think may have been responsible for the failures of previous exercises, and how do we, avoid them?
Thank you very much. First, I must say the AD costs more than that. We
Oh,
had
dear.
said that, yes. Because it's actually the architectural frame. It's so important. First, I'll talk from the perspectives of the citizens. All of us are citizens. We must cooperate with the National Population Commission. We must be willing to give information. We've also discovered that maybe it's only Yoruba land, I don't know. You ask them how many children. Say, I can come off from Lomo. Nobody says that again. If you don't tell me how many children, how do I put that down? Because data gathering is information gathering. If you don't tell me, I cannot put it down. And the government cannot work with it.
You're probably going to have to talk to some traditional rulers because
We
they
do
are
that.
the ones. They are the ones that are. They are the, what do we call them? The purveyors of these of the
Exactly, we
cultures
do
and
that.
all
That's
of that.
why
you know.
everywhere you would see us with the traditional rulers. We always do that. But like I said, I think because Lagos is really massive, you still talk to them, you talk to the CDAs, the market women, everybody, and you still go back and talk to them and they're like, what are you doing? You want to come and tax us, you want to pull down our houses. And I'm like, this is not what we are for, this is for your own good.
If you are getting this kind of quote-unquote pushback from Lagos, and I'm pretty sure you're having meetings with your colleagues from other parts of the country, is it similar?
It is. It is. That's a problem with Nigeria. You see, you talked about the 2006 census.
Yeah.
What we think happened is what we're trying to correct. One, that was a paper census. So a lot of things probably could have gone wrong. Now we are conducting a full technology-based census. Like I did say, even the enumeration area demarcation, we're using our PDAs. It's satellite imagery with the GIS. The whole of Lagos State is in there. Every nook and cranny of Lagos State is. We have the 0.5 satellite image resolution is the highest you can get now, and that's what we are using. But like I said, it's not with our technology this time, it's more with our people. I must also be honest, people, some are really understanding. Like we finished Ikorodu a few weeks ago. In 2006, when we had Ikorodu, the enumeration areas we had was very low. And you know, they also went to court in Lagos State. But this time, they stood up to it. The leaders came, and we had a lot of grassroots sensitization, and people actually cooperated with us in Ikorodu, and a few other local governments. Of course, there are some local governments that the people still don't understand what you're doing. Now we're going to Etiosa local government. One of the biggest problems we have in Lagos State is the gated estates. They are all big men and big women. In Lekki, Ibeju Lekki, I was with the leaders. One of them had worked at the presidency, one member of the House of Representatives, and we were all there. We all stood outside for over an hour in the sun. The gate men said, they say, make no open gates. And we had been there earlier on. My staff had been there. We had told them we're coming for this, and they wouldn't. The general said they shouldn't open gates. So when it takes you 1 hour in front of a gated estate, we are human beings. We are standing in the sun. By the time you enter, you are tired too, let's be honest. So the information too, you get as it be.
Okay.
Well,
how much would a proper register or registry of births and deaths help you to extrapolate after the census?
Fantastic. You know that birth registration benchmarks census results. And that's why we make birth registration free in Nigeria. Unfortunately, even though it is free, we've not registered up to 40%.
Interesting.
That's true.
Wow.
I'm sure you don't have a national birth certificate. None of you has.
I have my birth
have
certificate,
mine.
even though it is
It's not
young.
National Population Commission.
No.
I don't know what is on it, but I have.
I
mine.
have an original birth
Yes.
certificate.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
For us to put it in our data,
Yeah.
you need to come back to us.
Uh-oh.
We'll attest to your birth certificate, and then you're stored in our data that this is a birth certificate issued from National
I
Population.
have to come.
Yes.
So where do we go?
Any of the National Population Commission offices in Lagos State.
Okay.
We are in every local government.
This conversation is just starting.
Yes.
I have to let you know
Thank
that
you.
it's just starting, but we're gonna have to take it further because just as you said, so many people don't even know what the holy are you guys doing. But for now, we have to thank you for being a part of our conversation this
very
morning. Bimbola Salah Hunde is Honorable Federal Commissioner, National Population Commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your
so
time.
much. Thank you.
Okay, so we're back in a moment for.
The home stretch.
Okay, that's it.
Wow. He was tripping right there. He was tripping. He's a bassist, he's a music lecturer at the prestigious University of Lagos, and he's adjudged one of the best bass guitarists in Africa, no less. He has performed alongside renowned Nigerian and foreign artists such as Onyeka Onwenu, Tom Igles, Lionel Peterson, Orlando Julius, Daddy Shoki, Panam Percy Paul, Kenny St. Ogungbe Brown, Kunle Ajayi, and many others. And who am I talking about? Well, maybe you all know him as Sheyi Kenny. Sheyi Kenny, who really is Oluwaseyi Kehinde. Welcome to Sunrise.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us. Wow, that was mind-blowing, that's all I can say. And I was saying before we came on air, I said, you are a lecturer. So you are teaching by doing, not just by speaking it.
Exactly.
That was inspiring.
Thank you.
Now, tell us about you. You actually have a PhD.
Well, basically, music is about passion. When you have the passion, and most importantly, you get or you've gotten inspiration from your parents. You know, someone like me. You know, my dad was an organist, was a choir master, had been into music. Although he wouldn't want me to really study music, you know, he would prefer me to go for engineering, you know, and then even my mother would prefer me to go for medicine. But eventually, after wondering, I would say not really wondering because I had a good experience, you know, going for mechanical engineering. Then later on, I retraced myself back into music. So I started, and then because I've always been in it since when I was small, you know, they will always take me to the choir rehearsals, and then whenever my father composed any piece of music, I would just be hearing the tonic solfa and the rest of it. So by impartation, I was able to learn a lot of things from him. Not that he sat me down to teach me.
Okay.
Well, you know.
Why bass guitar? I mean, you said Dad was.
An organist.
Well, yes.
So why bass guitar for you?
Yeah, just like to show that he was trying not to make me go in his path so that I'll be able to, you know, go for engineering, mechanical engineering. So, but you see, there's one thing about talent. There's one thing about gift, most especially if it is from God. You know, there's something that I was able to learn. I just decided because I just developed the interest naturally for that instrument. You know, I play guitar too. You understand, but you know the aspect of going into bass guitar was a kind of an inspiration that I got from other people that were playing then. Somebody like Abraham Labourier, Marcus Miller, and the rest of them. And then looking at the way they were displaying, you know, you know, it got my attention. And for the fact that I grew up in the gospel scene, you know, that was exactly what inspired me to, you know, playing bass guitar, to want to really go into bass guitar. I mean, to learn about it. And then at some point, you know, when you see, this is another thing, one of the things that motivated me to now say, okay, I would want to learn or to study the music was after you looked at some of these people and you read about them, you know, one would just feel that, okay, what did they do to get to the level, you know, the awe? You know, I was able to understand that they studied the music and they were able to learn it. I mean, you know, from the way they display.
But
you understand?
it doesn't look like many music practitioners now are seeing things the way you're seeing things now. That's the way Alera started earlier. I mean, many just want to get behind the microphone and start vocalizing. And many of them get hits, some become what they call one-hit wonders, some become, big and everything. Why study music if you can make it quick?
Well, basically, one must be able to define exactly the essence of life because, there is this way or approach to life generally that I've been able to adopt because, well, everybody has his or her own way of doing things to be able to grow. And I found out that, at some point, there are some things that will take you beyond. What people will say, yes, you can be famous. But after that, what stage are you going to get to? Because we have a lot of musicians that were famous, you understand? But to impact others, because one of the things we must understand is, we must learn how to transfer whatever you have. Everybody has a unique way of display, musically, when it comes to music. So one way or the other, if you do not learn the art, it will be difficult for you to also learn or to teach or to impart others. And that's also one of the things and I know that I have that kind of gift, when it comes to imparting knowledge to
So that's
others.
why you are.
That's
also a
one of the
lecturer.
reasons why I said, okay, I must learn it and see the
And be
way
able to teach it properly.
and the way some people who are organized, the way they perform. You see the organization in their performance. So I found out that it's
Dr. Kende,
necessary.
you became the first PhD holder that ever emerged from the music unit of the Department of Creative Arts at the University of Lagos.
Yes.
Have any more come after you?
Yes, a lot.
Oh, great.
Yes,
Fantastic.
a lot.
But you look rather young.
Well,
I don't mean to flatter you.
well, that's God's gift. I mean, when God has made you to, musically music, once you engage in it regularly, there is this way you just feel. You understand? I mean, nobody will know.
Music keeps you young.
Yeah, you see, I don't know. It's a mystery. It's something that one way or the other you may not be able to explain.
Well, we'll have to come to that medical analysis some other time. But let me, piggyback on what I asked you earlier, and ask. So, you are also a lecturer.
Yes.
Like, good. So, in which other way do you impact knowledge into other people other than through your lectures?
Well, there are different ways that I know. I mean, let me just speak about myself. In performance, sometimes, I found out that, you see, some people had watched me severally, and they will see. For instance, I'm going to give an example. There was this man, I'm sure he should be in his mid-60s now, 60s now. And then this particular man is a talking drummer. He's been playing. He had played with Shina Peters and most of the renowned musicians. I think one of these days, you will need to, because now currently is in his 300 level. Yes, around 60 something. Yeah. Now in University of Lagos. We've been playing. We would play at concerts together. Then he will watch me, he will see the way I'm using score to play, to perform. And then he will be wondering, wow, I would love to know something like this. And eventually, the man is in, and so, a lot of people like that.
Score to play talking drum.
Yes, of course. There are a lot of things that you would just, just to learn how to organize.
Don't go into it yet, because
we've run completely out of time.
But that will be very, very interesting to hear.
Yes.
Dr. Seyi Kende, thank you very much for being our Artist of the Week for today. And we wish you all the best
Thank you.
as lecturer and whatever else that you do.
And as your student too.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
Dr. Kende winds up Sunrise for this day. Thank you for being with us this first day of May. We'll bring you a fresh edition next week. I'm Alero Edu, wishing you all the best until then, and have a good holiday on Monday. And don't forget, COVID-19 is still very much around. I know we're getting COVID weary, but still wash your hands, sanitize, wear your mask, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. I'm Ayo Makinde. It's almost lunchtime. Just so you know.